Good morning and welcome, Pick Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. I hope it finds you well out there. We've got, the same old, right? The war taking all the energy out of the room. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. I think, tomorrow? Tomorrow is the last day of spring training, right? So we'll get Major League Baseball. It's not football, but at least it's some kind of a sport. The NBA getting ready to start the playoffs that last until, I don't know, next year it seems like, in the NFL draft. So you got at least some distractions out there, and man, are they needed, as nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows what to think, right? Are we actually having these talks that the president says we're having? I don't know. Based on the activity, the bombing activity today, I would say we're not. I think we're talking to somebody. I don't think that person's in charge, but a lot of developments there. We did get the PMI today, and it was as expected. It just reeks of stagflation. And of course, I don't know that any data point we're going to get from here on out will all be the same. Now, what's interesting about this is this was kind of right as the war was starting. So this doesn't quite get us to, $4 or $5 gas, right? This was most of this data was probably before the first bomb dropped, but some of the data was, like I said, maybe that first week there. But here's what it showed. The combination, so you have two different ones, manufacturing PMI, service PMI, PMI Purchasing Managers Index. That is what they stand for. And they do this, anything over 50 is expansion, anything under 50 is contraction. Now, they're both over 50, which, that sounds great. And normally I would say, hey, that's good. Now, it's low 50s. The problem was the service PMI was the lowest going back to last year. And usually you see the service PMI a little higher than the manufacturing PMI. We didn't get that. But the real bad news in there was the thing that drove it over 50. And this is what they call the price gauges. So the purchasers were saying, yeah, everything cost more. 4% was what this number came in at. So this is now kind of the second straight data point where we got 4%. Remember, we had the PCE, right? The Fed's favorite inflation number, 3.9. Now the producer here, 4%. And again, neither one of those data points really reflected any big jump in what was going on with the war. So, Jason, the stagflation talk is back, at least for the people that want to look at data and not look at the war. Everyone's going, uh-oh, we were having inflation. I think what everyone's realizing is we were telling you, listen, inflation's getting hotter. Forget the war. Let's pretend the war didn't happen. This was going to be 4%. The PCE is going to be 4%, 3.9. Prices were coming. And you saw gold and silver, right, doing their thing. And, of course, now the war's got everyone, worried now. All of a sudden, are we going to see inflation over 5? And I can almost guarantee it. The question will be, is it going to be a month? Is it going to be 3 months, 6 months? And how high can it get over 5, right? 5, I think, is already here, right? We have that already. But this is something where people are starting to, the people I follow, guys like Jeff Gunlatch, are like, hey, guys, people aren't paying attention. I get it, wars, bombs, gas, but we've got a problem here. Matter of fact, go to allamericangold.com. He did a great interview, and one of the things kind of made me, I remember yesterday we were talking about, hey, if you're selling, sell yesterday. If you're buying, wait till Monday. He says this is the entry point into the gold market. The tailwinds are all there. This has just been a fluff, a distraction. So check out his comments there. But, Jason, I think we're going to see a big problem here, which is going to be, I think we're going to get rate cuts with inflation. Inflation could be 6 or 7, and they will cut rates.
Yeah, before the Venezuela thing, which got coupled up with the Iran thing, there was already $4.7 trillion getting ready to go into the American markets this year. Now they want another $200 billion for the war, and the inflation was coming, and the war's going to be the excuse. I don't think the war's going away based specifically on the fact that this money was coming, Joe.
We'll be back right after the break. We're back here, Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Very quickly, tomorrow we will have a Texit Iskander update. Tune in. A bunch of more good things happening. So that's the good news, is we got a lot of good things to talk about tomorrow. But let's take a quick look here. Okay, so we had a relief rally on Wall Street yesterday, right? I didn't bomb the infrastructure. Let's wait 5 days, right? That situation. Right now, the Dow was up 60. The S&P essentially flat. The NASDAQ is down 80. The 10-year note going back up 437. Remember, it was approaching 4.5 when the markets were getting ready to open, when the president had a change of heart. We will continue to watch here. Obviously, the PMI data today, not very helpful. We also have, and again, looking at gold and why it may be time, the 2-year note is now back above the Fed's funds rate, which is 3.5 to 3.75. Right, we got the 30-year note approaching 5%. That's not a good thing. And usually when that happens, right, the markets are like, well, gosh, that means you should probably be raising rates, which they're not going to do, right? They're not going to do. And if they do, good for us. I'll just say this right now. This is where I stand on whatever the Fed's going to do next. I don't think they do anything at the next meeting because it's Jay Powell's last. I don't care if they raise the rates or lower the rates. Gold's going to be higher. We'll watch out for it. Crude oil, higher. So we had the big sell-off yesterday. Here's the thing. I don't know if I know we talked about it on Friday. Over the weekend, the United States did allow for the 140 million Iranian at-sea oil to be sold. Right? So that will last basically to the end of the week. I mean, that's kind of what it buys them. But Brent right now back above 100, 103. NYMEX crude at 92. I will say this, by the way, gas up 10 cents today, so, not great. All of the parts around the oil price are much more expensive with the refineries. There was actually a refinery explosion at Port Arthur yesterday, and of course it happens to be, what type of refiner is it? Heavy crude refinery, right? They make diesel and jet fuel. I haven't heard how long it's going to be down. Hopefully not very long. It's a big complex, but that didn't help the situation. But I got a feeling every day that we get closer to the weekend, we'll probably see oil keep rising, because right now, like I said, we get a little reprieve from that Iranian oil. Chevron CEO was out last night, yesterday, and said, hey, the oil markets are not right. They have underpriced the situation, and he said that oil prices will be higher for longer than most people anticipate. So whatever damage is being done over there in the Middle East, it's not a quick fix. And then here's something else that's interesting. So today, Iran cut off natural gas to Turkey. There's a pipeline. They cut it off. By the way, last night, the United States and the Israelis hit a natural gas pipeline in Iran. I thought they weren't going to be doing that stuff. Iran, I don't know how many missiles they threw at Israel, but here's what's crazy. In the Permian Basin in Texas, where we're pumping oil like mad. It's one of those weird, and I don't think it's true in every oil field. But this field in particular has oil and natural gas that come out of the same well. Well, we don't have, and I don't know why, maybe because I think I know why, the math probably doesn't work. We don't have a big natural gas pipeline there. And all the natural gas is full wherever they can store it. So right now in the Permian Basin, think about this. The rest of the world needs natural gas, and Jason, they're just burning it off because it would be it would cost them like $10 per BTU of natural gas to store it. And they're like, wait, I'm not going to pay to store it. I'll just burn it off. We're actually burning off natural gas because I got to believe it was a math thing. Listen, we don't have big storages because it doesn't pay enough to build it.
Yeah, I grew up down the road from a natural gas refinery thing, and during the summer especially, there would be these burn-offs because during the summer, nobody's heating their house with natural gas, right?
Right.
And you could see like once, twice, 3 times a summer, be in the middle of the night. I always, as a kid, I like to stay up at night, but yeah, you'd see this big glow, from about 5-10 miles away. And we drive over there sometimes just to see the big flame coming out of the top of this thing because they're burning it off for multiple reasons. But one of the reasons is they don't need it all. You're right. There's no storage. Once they're full to capacity, you burn it until a truck shows up, right?
That's it, right? That's all you can do. So kind of interesting. I thought I'd point that out, but some non-war stuff. So we talked about that earlier. We talked about the bond market. We talked about PMI. And remember, this is before it gets to you. And the inflation before it gets to you keeps getting worse. We've been talking about private credit for, I don't know, seems like several months now. This is a very slow-moving disaster. And I'll just repeat, how do you go bankrupt? You go bankrupt gradually at first, and then all of a sudden. Well, today, Moody's downgraded private credit funds from KKR, from Future Standard, and they went all the way to junk. Said, these things are nowhere close to where they need to be. Then they also gave a rating of another KKR fund to one notch further into junk, saying the underlying asset quality has worsened. They're talking about borrowers that have stopped making payments up to 5.5%, and that was at the end of 2025. So here's the situation. This is how slow this stuff moves. They're still basing stuff at the end of 2025 when things were getting worse. How much worse do you think it's going to be when all of a sudden, hey, everything's costing more, something's a lot more? This looks like this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Apollo had to come out today in their private equity saying that redemptions had skyrocketed, and they essentially were limiting exemptions. Less than half of the people that asked for redemptions got them. We saw the same thing out of BlackRock last week. And now, Jason, we're starting to see the credit ratings agencies, they're always a day late and a dollar short, starting to essentially say a lot of these funds, the debt isn't worth the paper it's printed on. No.
Well, and that's kind of why we're in this war to begin with, right? There's some currency issues and there's a debt problem. And the debt and the currency isn't worth very much, but until there's something else, if there's something else to go to compete against it, and this is why we're on the air, right, Joe? We give you an option to walk out or be a little outside of this currency debt, manipulation of people's value. So, yeah, currency is important. You need to transact, but it's like a hot potato. Don't hold on to it too long.
Yeah, this is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Ares, Apollo, TPG, Blackstone, KKR, Blue Owl. I mean, the list is growing by the week now. Just something other okay. Breaking news here. Russia says it is halting all ammonium nitrates exports. Why is that important, guys? Fertilizer. Man, I'm so glad I'm not a farmer right now. I don't know how you're supposed to plan on this. All ammonium nitrate exports started this. Apparently, they started this weekend. They will not export any for all of the rest of March and April. Why does that matter? Well, they're the largest exporter, the largest producer, of ammonium nitrate. 47% of the global output comes from them. They're also the largest exporter. Around 37 to 40% of all ammonium nitrate comes from Russia. They just announced that they will not be shipping. So, Jason, again, it just feels like this thing's getting worse and not better. And of course, I don't know the situation. Is Russia doing it because, hey, we need it for ourselves? Or are they doing this in support of the Iranians? Nobody really knows, but the fact of the matter is fertilizer pricing, this is kind of reminiscent now of going back to where, remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and what happened to fertilizer prices then? Now it's almost like a double whammy, right? You got fertilizer and diesel pricing, but we've heard from our farmers, they can deal with the diesel. They can't deal with the fertilizer price. Jason, that's kind of been the big thing that we've heard. That is really what is going to make things difficult.
Yeah, I think the world, and I know the world is supposed to be going through a recession or a different, the markets aren't supposed to continue to just go up and go up, go up. And the only reason they're going up is because of the money printing. So these farmers, they're trying to make ends meet. And the problem is with inflation and prices going up, everyone cuts corners, everyone cheapens goes to a lower quality just to, to make it work. And then suddenly it just gets too expensive. And I mean, I'm looking at historic oil prices. I think this is the lower one, because in 2008, right, the housing crash, Joe, got close to $120, right?
Right.
And then we got up in the inflation because of the COVID. I forgot in 2022 we got to $114 a barrel. I told you it's
right. It slips your mind.
It slips your mind.
And a lot of these, it got up there, but didn't necessarily stay up there, right? They were kind of quick. We're going to talk about oil prices. Just how big is the shortage?
Yes, ma'am.
We're back here, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. We actually have the gold and silver markets now higher as some newer developments coming in, kind of saying, hey, get ready now for the forced sell-off of people when the war broke out. Jason and I have kind of talked about this. Hey, they're only have X amount of their assets in certain things. It looks like the forced sell-off is getting ready to end. Jeff Gunlatz today coming out and saying this is where he thinks the entry point into the gold market is. Right now, gold's up about $12, 4,420. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to heat this thing way up, just in case. I want to make sure, hey, just in case we have one more leg down, which I don't know, could be, if we start bombing Iran starts bombing them, but could happen. Now, it could go the other way. But I want to make sure, hey, you're in a great spot to do it today safely. $45.25. $4,525. I mean, that's like $100 over spot. That's a pretty good place to be at $20 gold. Silver's up $1. It's at $70 again. So I'm going to make this one a good value for you as well. $15.75. Right now, Silver Eagles, $15.75, which again puts you in a really good spot. When you think about, am I doing this right, Jason? I keep coming up with a number. $78.75. That's $70 silver. Right now, I'll just tell you straight up, our cost is $3.25 over today. Much better than where it was. Think about this. When silver went to 120 and went to 70, remember that big whack-a-mole? We were paying $10 over for a case of Silver Eagles at that point. So here, we're at $70. My cost is $73.25. We're making about $5. That's it. That's single-digit markups here. But rolls of Silver Eagles, $15.75. $20 gold pieces, $45.25. By the way, Saxo Bank saying the liquidity crunch in gold is about to come to an end. The effect is gold was being sold because it was one of the few liquid assets that was still showing gains year over year. And let me point out the credit markets. The private credit markets, look at what all these big companies did. People wanted, hey, I sell. Hey, I want to sell. No, sorry. We're not doing redemptions right now. Why don't you check back? Check back next month. Maybe we'll give you some money next month. right? So gold, silver, guys, this was kind of like selling because they had to, because they had nothing else that they could sell. And a lot of the big money in Wall Street gets tied up. People don't realize how it works. Hey, I threw 10 million, 20 million, I threw $1 billion at this. I can't even sell it for another 2 years, right? Those are some of the things. And then others, they're like, well, you can sell whenever you want. We just don't have to give it to you, right? That's what's happening in private credit right now. People want out, and they're like, nah, can't get out, sorry. It says right here in the contract, we only have to redeem 3%. And once we hit that number, we just stop. You just don't get anything. But they're saying when it comes to this, here's something, this is really important, because this is something Jason and I have been trying to get into your heads. Once the dust settles, remember what they're telling you. You better buy some gold and silver before the dust settles. So before they start bombing each other or not bombing each other, buy some. The current wave of forced selling has run its course. The outlook for gold in particular will improve again quite sharply. Fiscal debt concerns continue to build. The risk of stagflation is rising. Higher energy costs threatening growth, not gold, growth, while keeping inflation elevated. Silver is also to rebound, but may be a little more sensitive on the growth side, right? So obviously silver has some of that industrial. But Jason, I think this is a good explanation. We had somebody, I think a texter texted in, was wondering, hey, why hasn't, silver or gold, been that safe haven asset? This is probably the best reason, right? This is them telling you, hey, people had to sell, and they weren't allowed to sell the stuff they wanted to sell, and they had to sell, this is one of the great things about, remember, gold's a tier 1 asset now. What does that mean? Highly liquid tier 1 asset means it's the best quality asset you can have, and they weren't allowed to sell their crappy assets, Jason. That's pretty simple.
Gold is not a hedge against deflation.
That's right.
There's a lot of deflationary pressures constantly on the world market. We should be in a worldwide depression. The only way to artificially stop a depression is to cheapen your goods and services, fire a bunch of people, and print a whole bunch of money, and just print, so that you just need a whole lot more money to buy the same thing. This is why gold works. Gold is a big shield against currency creation. But if the world elite that decides where money's going decided to go into a depressionary cycle, your gold and silver is going to go down. But what rich tycoon wants his properties and his stocks and all of his non-currency assets to go down? If you're going to choose, you're going to choose for it to go up, and you're going to crush the poor and especially the middle class. So if we get into a recession or depression, gold will go down. It's a great gold is a great barometer. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And Joe, what are we going to see later this year? A bunch of money printing and a bunch of new money, and gold and silver is going to take off.
$200 billion just for the war effort. Decorator News Hour, 800-951-0592. $20 gold pieces. Huge sale today at 45 1/4 right now. Gold now 44.27, so about $98 over spot. And then U.S. Silver Eagles, another huge opportunity here at $1,575 right now. Silver about $70.10 at 800-951-0592. So let's look at the oil shortfall. So 16 million barrels a day is what is being affected. Now, you can mitigate some of that. Okay. Obviously, the Iranians are allowing their oil to go through. That's about 1.8 million barrels. Okay. To give you an idea, here's how this works. Shipments from exporters down 30% in the past 10 days. Jet fuel, these are shipments, down 40%. Gasoline, down 30%. Diesel, down 20%. Now, you can make up some of this. That's 16 million barrels. How? Well, first, Saudi can reroute some of its crude. Okay, so you get some of the crude, they can bypass the strait, which, by the way, if we go through with this Iranian attack, why do I feel like that bypass will be gone? But that, by the way, is one of the biggest chunks of the savings. But here's where we are when the Iranian oil runs out, this 140 million. We're going to be at 10 million barrels short every single day instead of 16, right? One by the Saudis. One by industry products that, hey, we normally don't release. We have extra. We'll sell the extra, make the money, and live with it. That's not a big chunk. Then they have the UAE rerouting. That's a little bit, not as much as the Saudis. The SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, we're releasing that already. That's already in play. By the way, about 750 million barrels a day. What they're saying, the floating storage release. Well, guess what? We've already done that now, right? That's the Iran. That's Russia. Obviously, if they buy the Iranian oil today, it's on a ship somewhere. It'll take some time, right, to get the ship unloaded. And then last but not least, they're hoping that China will release some of its reserves. But they're saying that the best case scenario, and I've been telling you guys this, if we're in this in April, this will not go well. The best case, starting in April, is every day the world will be 10 million barrels of oil short. And how long can the pain go, right? And we are going to see a huge increase in the price, which maybe, Jason, I started thinking about this a little more. Maybe they're thinking, you know what, if that's the case and we don't want to take our ball and go home, maybe we just do need to bomb them. The heck with it. So what if oil goes to 300 or 400 for a little bit? It was going to go to 200 anyway, and we're going to force regime change. I mean, that's real. I mean, we only got three choices: take our ball and go home, right? Which I vote for. Choice number two: continue this little thing we're doing right now. Whatever you want to call what we're doing right now. Basically, starting April 1st, the world's short 10 million barrels of oil a day, and you tell me what the price does. And we're out of tricks. The last trick was the Iranian oil. That was the last one to bring prices down.
I would say the trick was to bring the oil up. You leave Venezuela alone and you leave Iran alone, and we have $50 a barrel.
That's right. Imagine if you didn't sanction anybody's oil. Didn't sanction Russian oil, Iranian oil, Venezuelan oil. Right? You could probably be at 40.
Then poor and middle-class people start to gain a little bit and start to do better and start to prosper a little bit. We can't have that, because that low oil price, we may end up seeing a recession. And people look at the word recession. Oh, it's so horrible, the recession. Well, yeah, for those holding a lot of assets that are going down in price, recessions aren't good. but the prices come down. People need to remember, a recession is like they've turned it into the biggest bad word there is. It just means that you have less currency. There's less currency versus how much is being than is needed, and it brings the prices down. It means holding currency becomes more valuable because now there's less of it, and that's what was going on. There's oil by itself as the huge energy that it is can bring the entire world prices down in a recession, and actions were taken to cause higher oil. And now everyone's like, well, how do we keep the oil prices down? Well, wait a minute. Just a couple of months ago, we were talking about how low the oil prices were. And then Maduro suddenly was smiling as he was captured.
Yeah.
See that grin that guy had as he was in handcuffs?
Gold's up 22, 44.30. Man, that deal, that $20 gold deal getting better by the minute here. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment when we return. 800-951-0592. The highlights today, service sector and manufacturing PMI, hotter than expected stagflation. The 2-year note now above the Fed's funds rate, which is just signaling more inflation. Russia has halted all ammonium nitrate exports. They are the largest exporter in the world. For us lay folks, that's fertilizer. So bad news. You know, obviously you would assume that prices are going up from the agriculture side of things, obviously, if this is going to be well, it's got to be because they've done it. They've already said we're not going to export any for the next month. And on top of that, China now is said that the war should not have begun in the first place, blames the United States. I don't know that that's any big surprise. And we have oil prices starting to rise again as this excess Iranian oil that we allowed is going to run its course here by the end of the week. And a lot of, it's interesting how they all do it all at once. First, Jeff Gundlach, now all the banks are kind of saying, hey, we're about at the end of this gold and silver liquidation thing. And it really wasn't the liquidation you would think it was. This was more forced. And as soon as the dust settles, there is going to be a significant rebound, which just tells me, remember, I've been telling you, hey, you may want to wait and blah, blah. Now I'm telling you, buy some gold and silver before the dust settles. Buy it before it settles, because you never know, right? So, sometimes when you're positive, man, it's going to get hammered again, and then it does the exact opposite. I'm wondering if we're getting set up for that. If we decide that the bombing of the Iranian infrastructure is going to move forward. Very quiet today on that front. At least the president hasn't been as active, or at least it hasn't hit the places that I've seen. But in any event, we'll wait and see what happens at the end of the week. And lastly, private credit getting hit very, very hard again today, as Moody's now has started downgrading, and my guess is the entire private credit markets will continue to be downgraded as this continues to play out. If they were already having troubles paying in the fourth quarter of last year, it obviously hasn't gotten any better. Right? If anything, things have definitely slowed down. Everybody I talked to since this war has started, everyone's kind of froze. Right? Everyone's locked up. Don't freeze here. Hey, I'm not saying maybe you're looking, hey, I'm going to do 100,000. I'm going to do 50,000, 20,000, whatever. Maybe you're just going to do a couple thousand. Do some of that. Well, the dust. Well, it's still dusty, because you know what? I don't know. The dust may clear any second. 800-951-0592.